I was curious. I asked AI what have been the 5 best productivity techniques, methods, systems over the last 50 years. And the results were partially predictable, but actually there were a couple of surprises. Now, before we get into this, I will actually say that I don't use ChatGPT, I use Claude. I just prefer the name, it just feels a little bit more human. But I'm sure that if you ask ChatGPT, it's going to give you the same kind of results. So I'm going to share with you the 5 techniques, methods, systems that Claude believes is the most effective time management and productivity techniques over the last 50 years. And I'm going to go in reverse order. In 5th place is the Kanban for personal productivity. Now, those of you not familiar with Kanban, Kanban is essentially a board that you can create in something like Trello or Asana or even Todoist, where you have 3 main columns. The 3 columns stand for to do, doing, and done. Now, what you're doing is moving things along from the left to the right, so that all being well, everything gets put into the done column by the end of the day or week, or if you're doing this in a project, perhaps by the time you reach the project deadline. It's simple, it's actually quite effective, but there is a danger that to-do area becomes overwhelming and the doing also becomes overwhelming, and there's not a lot going on in the done. So I've always struggled with the Kanban system myself because there's a lot of random stuff can be thrown in there and there's no way of really prioritizing it unless you're spending too much time organizing. Anyway, that one is the Kanban for personal productivity. On to number 4. In 4th place is Stephen Covey's prioritization matrix or priority matrix. Now, this one is something that is very, very effective. And it's essentially you create a grid of 4 squares. And the columns go important and not important, urgent and not urgent, something like that. Now, what you're doing is you're categorizing your work by important and urgent, important, not urgent, and then down at the bottom of the grid, you've got not important but urgent and not urgent and not important, and that's a mouthful. Now, it's great because it helps you to prioritize your work. You also need to pre-think what your important but not urgent tasks are. Those are the things that will actually help you to reduce what's in the other 3 boxes. If you're focused on anticipating what might happen, you're also focused on your health, you're focused on planning, and all the other things that are really the essential parts of being productive, then the other 3 squares will actually start to reduce. It's a wonderful system, and Stephen Covey writes a lot about it in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I theoretically use this more mentally rather than actually writing this out, because I'm very aware that the quadrant 2, which is the important but not urgent stuff, is the things that I need to make sure are protected and get done daily or weekly or however often they need to do, because that feeds a better productivity system. Okay, let's move on to what is in number 3. The 3rd one is time blocking or calendar blocking. Now, of course, I do love this one. However, time blocking gets a bad name simply because many people completely misunderstand it and do it wrong. Time blocking is about blocking out time for the important things each day. It's not micromanaging your calendar. When you micromanage your calendar, you've already failed before the day begins, because all it needs is one meeting to overrun, or you get caught in the corridor answering questions from somebody. It might get an unexpected phone call or a message that means you have to drop everything. There's too much that can go wrong if you're micromanaging your day. Time blocking is not that. Time blocking is sort of saying to yourself, okay, I need 2 hours to do my really important work today, And as I keep saying, I need about 90 minutes to deal with my communications and admin toward the end of the day. Now, if you add that up, that's about 3.5 hours a day that you are protecting for getting critical work done. It also means that you've got plenty of time to do other stuff, this random stuff that's going to pop up, and it's not going to affect your actual block for the day, your calendar blocks or time blocks for the day. So if you want to do time blocking, and I really do believe that this is one of the most effective time management and productivity methods that you can actually try, then don't micromanage your calendar. Try and find blocks in your day or even week if you're in a very dynamic job where you've got to speak with clients and customers or you have to meet with your team, but just find time in your week, in your calendar that you can pre-protect so that there's no meetings, no interruptions, and get that critical work done. Time blocking does work, but it needs to be measured and it needs to be you just want to avoid micromanaging your day. Okay, let's move on to this number two. Now, number two is a bit of a surprise for me because I wasn't expecting to see this one, but it is the Pomodoro technique. Now, the Pomodoro technique is about protecting 25 minutes sessions of work. So 25-minute sessions of work, and then you give yourself a break. Now, if you look at this in a little bit more detail, 25 minutes, give yourself a 10-minute break, and then another 25 minutes. 25 plus 25 plus 10 is 60. So you're running through an hour. Now, for people with ADHD or are easily distracted, the Pomodoro technique actually can work because you set yourself a little timer, you have it on your desk, and you work, focused work, for 25 minutes. It's only 25 minutes. Now, when that 25 minutes is up, you stop. Wherever you are, you just stop and then do something else. Now, I would always advocate doing some chores like doing the dishes or just wiping down tables in your living room if you're working from home. But you can do essentially whatever you want. If you really must, you can check your email or messages if you must. And then come back after 10 minutes, you restart another 25-minute session. So as I say, it's really good for those people who have ADHD, particularly if it's severe ADHD, because you're really just forcing yourself to focus on the next 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, an alarm goes off. That will alert you and tell you to stop and then do something else, and then you can come back after 25 minutes. It really does work, but I was surprised that it was in number two. I think of it more of a technique similar to time blocking, but actually it is a bit different because you can pick and choose whatever you're doing in your 25-minute session. So there you go, that was in number two. And finally, what's in number one? Now, in number one isn't really a surprise, although I might disagree somewhat. Number one is getting things done, or GTD. Now, I'm sure many of you, if you've been following productivity videos and blog posts for a while, you will have heard of GTD, or getting things done. It was created by David Allen in 2001, or the book was published in 2001. But it is based on what David Allen learned the 30 years before 2001. So really, it kind of started in the late 70s, 80s, and 90s. Getting things done is about collecting stuff. You collect everything into an inbox, or as David Allen likes to call it, into a bucket. At some point in the next 24 to 48 hours, you process what you've collected and organize it by context. Now, this is where there's a big misunderstanding about getting things done. Getting things done is about creating lists based around context. Now, your context could be at home, at office, at phone, at computer. It can also be related to people. So it could be at wife, at boss, at colleague. And then there are other ones where you can actually be tools based. So it could be at computer, at phone, and so on. Now, that's how you create your lists in getting things done. Now, for some reason, people have completely misunderstood getting things done and created long lists of projects. Now, Getting things done defines a project as anything requiring 2 steps or more. And as David Allen points out, that means that you will get between 30 and 150 projects. That's just the average person. Some of you may have more. This is one of the reasons why I found getting things done just doesn't work very well for me, and it certainly is a struggle to make it work in the modern world where we've got different types of category. We can do things from our iPad, our laptop, our phone. All 3 things can be done from the same device. When David Allen published the book in 2001, you wouldn't be able to create a presentation on your cell phone. Now I can, theoretically, create a keynote presentation file on my phone very, very easily. I can write blog posts on my phone. I can dictate to my phone. So the tool side of it kind of has dropped away, and many of the contexts don't work today. Although, to be fair to getting things done, the contexts that we often talk about are just guidelines. You can create whatever context you like. And then it's about just getting on with the work. The problem, as I say, I found with getting things done is I had long lists of stuff all over the place or in my task manager, and it was just an overwhelming mess. And also I found that the weekly review, which is another key cornerstone of getting things done, was just too much. Like, review all your projects. Well, if you've got 30 to 150 projects, you're going to be giving up all Saturday afternoon or Sunday evening just going through all your projects. It just didn't work for me, which is why I created the time sector system, which was a bit of a surprise that the time sector system was not on this list. But hey ho, maybe next time, next year, when I check this out, I will find again. So there you go. Those are the 5 top time management productivity techniques, methods, systems that Claude, or AI, believes are the best over the last 50 years. So just to give you a quick summary, in number 5, it was the Kanban for personal productivity. In number 4, Stephen Covey's priority matrix, time blocking and calendar blocking in number 3, Pomodoro technique number 2, and getting things done number 1. It's kind of an interesting exercise, but the one thing I really should point out is that what you're really doing is you need to find something that works for you and the way that you prefer. Some people prefer to just use pen and paper, write down the list of things, which is very much what's called the Ivy Lee method, which was created in 1918. There are other people who love their bullet journals, which I also think is a very, very good system. So this is not a definitive list. It's not like this is true, and I certainly don't believe AI on many things that it reports to me, but this was an interesting exercise and also gives you some food for thought. I hope you found it useful. Now, if you want to learn more about the time sector system, which I do believe should be in number 1, then this video up here will give you a quick overview.